What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Sweat. I am Adam Kaufman. Get comfortable because we have got a lot to cover. There's, of course, the Scottish Open to look back on, the British Open to look ahead to, NBA Summer League, NFL news, Major League Baseball, you name it. Over the course of the next hour, we are going to cover it. And with that, let us welcome in our golf pros. They're not actually golf pros, I don't think. I've never been golfing with them, but they're really good at talking about it. And they're DK contributors, Jeff Ulrich, Reed T. Fowler, as well as Colin Sherwin. How are you guys?
Great, Koff. I mean, you open up the question without actually giving the person to answer the question. So good start. I really appreciate this.
Well, do you walk into a restaurant, Reed, to meet a group of people and say, "Hey, Reed, how are you? Hi, Jeff, what's going on?"
Actually, I do. This is not a bar meetup. We're talking business here. This is the Open Championship. That starts tomorrow, Koff.
All right, that's fair. Let's get down to business then. Let's talk about it. A little Open Championship chase or fade. Xander Schauffele's coming off the win at the Scottish Open, just a one-shot victory. His odds jumped to plus 1,200. I know there was a little off-air, on-air show action going on just before we came on. So, Jeff, you were talking a lot. Let's get to you. You going to chase his odds at plus 1,200?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're back up to plus 1,400. So you probably see some fluctuating in that range for Schauffele this week. But even at plus 1,400, I mean, it's unfortunate. Either you got on Xander at like a decent number over the last couple of weeks, or you're left with this quandary of like, do you really want to bet Xander Schauffele is the third favorite in a major championship? And not only any major championship, the Open Championship, where we have like, it's the most variable Open. He's back down to plus 1,200 apparently. So anyways, he's at a very short number this week. I love the way he's playing. He was well overdue to break through for a couple wins, but like, it's just too short a number. We did talk about this a little bit off air before the show started. And, when you have other players, comparable players who at points in their career have been better than Xander Schauffele, have won at a higher rate than Xander Schauffele. And yeah, I'm talking about Cantlay, Hovland, Dustin Johnson. When these players are available at like more than double the odds, and then you're at the Open Championship where the draw and the weather comes into effect, it's just really hard to take him. I think for DFS at 9,900, you could build around him. You can eat some chalk and differentiate other places. But like for outright betting, I need a bigger number really to bet Xander than plus 1,200 this week.
Reed, Moose stole my thunder. I was going to correct him right back, but he did it to himself. What do you think, plus 1,200?
Yeah, I mean, like on Sunday when potentially if Xander is at minus 225 to win, plus 1,200 looks really good, right? Like that's the one thing that you got to think about with Xander is that, Jeff talks about FOMO with Scotty Scheffler, and now you got Xander at 12-1 or plus 1,200. I get why you don't do it, and we never do, right? We never come in here and say bet these guys at these short odds. But when you talk about the Open Championship and how he's playing, if you include the Pro-Am, he's won 3 straight. The last 3 times he's teed it up. Now we don't count the Pro-Am as something, but Xander's got something going right now. He's figured something out now. Scheffler and Schauffele aren't the same, right? And if I had to choose one guy, it'd probably be Scotty Scheffler. Like if his number starts to drift and he gets up, in price tag, that's the guy that you want to take a look at, right? Is Scotty Scheffler. He's the number 1 golfer in the world, and he is there for a reason. So I get how he played the Scottish Open. It was fantastic for Xander, and a lot of these guys didn't play well, like Rahm and Scotty Scheffler. But boy, fading the hottest golfer right now is tough.
Where do you fall, Colin?
Yeah, Jeff and I were at the very last segment on Friday, both saying how much we love Xander Schauffele to win the Scottish Open, and that we were kind of hoping that he would not play very well on Saturday and Sunday, so we could get a better price this week. That didn't exactly work out real well for us. I was hoping to catch Xander in the 20s, maybe even at 30, hopefully if he had blown up this weekend. But to see him at 12, that's just a little bit too low. He's a great player. He can absolutely win this tournament. I'm going to need a better price to bet him. So, if anything, a top 10 at 150 feels a little bit better than trying to win it outright at 1,200.
All right, well, chase or fade, let's talk about someone who is considerably younger than all of us, and that's Matt Fitzpatrick, going for back-to-back major wins this week, plus 1,800 odds. Reed, how do you feel about it?
Speak for yourself, Koff. I got the complexion of a 25-year-old.
That's fair. I didn't say you didn't look the part.
It's true. It's another show. I'm going to Matty Fitzpatrick. I think he's like, I think, we talk about momentum, right? And he just won the US Open. Now you come over here and is basically his major championship. But at the same time, like Fitzpatrick, while he's bulked up, now we're seeing Instagram shots or TikTok shots of him, having all of these sensors on his body and his ball speed and his club head speed have increased. Again, I go back to look at the guys around him in John Rahm at plus 1600. Again, poor Friday to Sunday at the Scottish Open. But if you take a look at what he's done in his long career, he's been one of the best golfers. I'm a little worried about his scrambling, but still, John Rahm at plus 1600 for 2 points less than Fitzpatrick. And even a guy like right after him, I'm sure, Jeff's going to talk about Cantlay and Shane Lowry. They're right there next to him. So if I'm comparing Fitzpatrick to those other guys, I'm going to fade him just based on the number, not necessarily based on how he's playing.
Reed teed you up, Jeff. You chasing or fading Fitzpatrick?
I mean, I'll say this about Fitzpatrick. This way, it would not shock me if he went back-to-back in majors. It really wouldn't. This is just a very, very confident player right now. And you look at the number. I mean, if you can get 1,800 on Fitzpatrick versus 1,200 at Xander, I'm taking Fitzpatrick every day of the week. Is this necessarily a player who's going to end up on my betting card because he's still under plus 2,000? Probably not. I mean, just because, again, it's a deep field. It's obviously a major. There's guys at plus 2,500, plus 3,000 we can get with very comparable skill sets. But Matthew Fitz, honestly, if you're just of the opinion that I just want to get exposure to two players with very good chances to win this week, I'm not going to go down the field. I don't want to spend a ton of time. You take Xander Schauffele at plus 1,200. You take Matthew Fitzpatrick at plus 1,800. Probably a good chance one of these guys are going to be in the top 5 going into Sunday. That's how good these two players are playing. So I think Fitzpatrick at plus 1,800 is at the very least a better value proposition than Xander Schauffele. And I think you may even see his number drift a little bit because I don't think he's going to get that many bets because people are just sitting there, well, Matthew Fitzpatrick can't win 2 majors in a row. He's Matthew Fitzpatrick. He's playing extremely good golf. This is his area of the world, by the way, too. It was basically, he grew up playing the Euro Tour. So I think Fitzpatrick at plus 1,800, at the very least, we got to label him better value than Schauffele, and just a player who is extremely confident in every part of the game right now.
Colin, chasing or fading?
Absolutely chasing. Fitzpatrick is 3rd on the PGA Tour in scrambling and 2nd in scoring average. What else do you want at the Open? I mean, this is a course where you're going to be off the green a lot. You're going to be around. You're going to need to make some up and downs, and this guy can just score anyway. I think he's by far the best value on the board right now at 1,800. I'm almost hoping he gets off to a bad start so I can layer a little bit more on him as the day goes on. But yeah, I think, look, Fitzpatrick is one of the best players in the world anyway. But this course sets up really, really well for him. And, as we saw, this is going to be a wedge contest. Give me Matthew Fitzpatrick and Will Zalatoris in wedge contest all day.
Well, one of the best ever, but certainly not one of the best in the world right now. We got to talk Tiger Woods, plus 6,000. Guys, I was getting ready to talk to you about plus 4,000 odds on Tiger Woods. We just looked at the DraftKings Sportsbook up to the moment, plus 4,000. No, not anymore. Plus 6,000. It's crazy. Jeff, what do you think?
I think that, you double that and maybe I'd lay down a little sprinkle on Tiger Woods, but we're not quite there yet. I mean, I know I've talked about this earlier in the season that, if you were ever going to bet Tiger Woods at a major in 2022, it's at St. Andrews, but we just haven't seen the lead in that we really wanted to see. We wanted to see Tiger get a little bit stronger. Maybe make a little run at one of the PGA or the US Open, just so we know that there's something in there that that he's getting a little bit stronger, a little bit better. But I do like the fact that he's come over early and he's been trash talking Justin Thomas on the course. That leads me to believe that mentally he's in a very good place. So swag Tiger is in there somewhere, right? But man, it's just asking a little bit too much here. I mean, he's played one full practice round. That's the big story of the week. I just don't think physically he's there. I think we're going to have to wait till 2023 to get really serious talking about Tiger. And even then, who knows, man? I mean, this guy is kind of getting close to 50. He's got the big leg surgery. We're just glad he's on the course at this point. But no, you shouldn't bet Tiger even at plus 6,000. I know the odds are starting to get a little bit more tempting.
Colin, would you like to throw your money at nostalgia?
Anytime you can bet a 46-year-old with 1.5 legs, you have to do it, right? No, this is sucker play. Get me out of here. At 60 to 1, there's probably worse bets on the board, honestly, but no, this is just dumb money. I'm surprised it's actually gone up because I think, especially with the things that JT was saying about their practice round yesterday and how well he's playing, you'd think that maybe some of that interesting money would come on board, but not quite. And it's up to 60. Just stay away here. Look, Tiger, the other thing that Tiger doesn't do nearly as well as he did when he won this at this course 22 years ago, he doesn't shape the ball nearly as well as he used to, and he can't keep it out of the wind flight. That's just not in his game anymore. He doesn't have the strength to manage the ball around the course the way that you need to in these kind of winds to leave yourself short putts. Stay away from Tiger. Sorry, root for him, but stay away.
Reed, can you give us a reason to believe in Eldrick?
Yeah, it's Tiger Woods. I mean, he needs 2 words. Wouldn't this be typical Tiger, right? We love him at the PGA because Southern Hills, right? That's where he won. We love him at Augusta National because it's Augusta National, and he played well the first couple of days, and then he faltered. And what do we do here, right? Jeff and I were talking ad nauseum back in April. If there's one place to play Tiger, and yes, we would have loved to see form from Tiger over the last handful of months, was here at St. Andrews. It's the 150th anniversary of the Open Championship. It's at St. Andrews. Tiger Woods has been there. Like, I would love to agree with the guys, and I would love to just be like, yeah, Tiger Woods, that is dumb money, right, to bet at plus 6,000. But wouldn't just be Tiger Woods to be someone in the top 10, top 20 at this tournament, even though his leg's not 100%, never will be. This is not Southern Hills where it's going to be super hot and even hillier than anything. This is not Augusta National. This is St. Andrews. This is the place where he's won multiple times. I am not fading Tiger ever again. If you want a piece, maybe not outright, but top 40, top 20, make the cut. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bet on Tiger.
Well, it's fitting, guys, that his odds did move because what I want to talk about next, chasing or fading guys who have plus 6,000 or worse odds. Reed, we'll kick it right back to you. Anybody on the bottom of this list here that jumps out at you?
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy, Max Homa, pre-tournament coming like pre this week, I believe was at plus 8,000. That's long gone. So if you got him, kudos to you. There's guys, dude, that could actually increase in their number, Cop, as the week progresses. Joaquin Niemann and Hideki Matsuyama are both at plus 5,000. I don't think it gets up to 6. But 2 guys specifically at plus 6,500 and Adam Scott and Sanjay M. Sanjay could be a little injured. We don't know yet, but he sets up extremely well. There's a lot of Augusta National correlations. Guys who play well there usually play well here. And he's sitting there at plus 6,500. And Adam Scott, I know Jeff's going to talk about his boy. He's also someone that could go a little bit under the radar. For right now, I think Sanjay M. And even Seamus Power, all 3 of those guys at plus 6,500 really are piquing my interest.
Colin, I feel like every time I ignore a guy like Mito Pereira, there he is near the top of the leaderboard. He's plus 10,000. Who do you like?
Muted.
We can't hear you.
Play better. Play
There we
better.
go.
I'm playing like Tiger out here. Mito, I had Mito at 130 to 1 as he stood on the 18th tee and made double bogey. So I am still killing myself. I still think Mito's one of the best players in the world. I will never get over Mito on 18, but I absolutely think he's always worth a sprinkle in these type of events just because he has the game to be complete. I don't really love anybody at plus 6,000 or higher, so I think the winner comes from sort of that middle range. I really like everybody sort of like between 3,000 and 5,000 now. I think Will Zalatoris is probably the best ball striker in the world, and that's probably going to really help you this week. Cameron Smith can roll the ball much better than Zalatoris and is almost as good a ball striker. He's at 2,800. If you can see that maybe trickle up to 30, 32 as the week goes on, I'd really like some of him too. You already talked about Max Homa. He was the bargain of a lifetime at plus 8,000. I think at plus 4,000, he's still really good. So I like guys sort of in that middle range away from the top of the board, but not all the way down either. Give me like that middle fourth or the second fourth on the board, the second quadrant. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Moose, who are you going to chase?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I really like Adam Scott's chances this week. I mean, really just under the radar, T14 at the U.S. Open, played extremely well there. You know, again, like the short game for Adam Scott, it's been all over the place this year. It's kind of held him back, but this is the Open. He's got a lot of Open Championship experience. Obviously, you know, finished second here in just brutal fashion 2012, but it's a player who's like just much like Zach Johnson, just coming in a little bit under the radar. Zach Johnson 2015, I'm talking about. Veteran player, he's going to put himself out there. I mean, he's been really good with the putter this year. Would not shock me if Adam Scott is there on Sunday, plus 6,500. I love those odds. But let's go down the board a bit because Thomas Pieters and Haotong Li, they're 2 players who played in the playoff a couple weeks ago at the BMW International Open. Haotong Li won that event. Let's not forget, on his debut, Haotong Li finished 3rd in the Open Championship. This is a player with really, really good upside. I absolutely think he's live to win this event. He's plus 15,000 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. It sounds a little crazy, but I mean, this is a player who's taken on the best in the world at multiple times in his career. He beat Rory in a showdown on the Euro Tour like 3 years ago. He's got multiple big wins on that tour. And like I said, this has been his best major by far. So I think Tong Lee with some really just under the radar form right now and a plus 15,000. I mean, you're looking down this list. Who are you going to take to win this event? Sebastian Munoz, Webb Simpson, Harold Varner III. These guys all have shorter odds than Tong. I think Tong Lee is actually a very good value when you're going down. You're looking for that true long shot winner because, like I said, I mean, he's got the top 5 in the Open and he's gone very low in this event before. So give me some Tong Lee as a real outsider this week.
The Open Championship obviously is a big deal, guys. So let's spend just a little more time with it. Chase or fade? One more. Moose, the winner will come from someone with plus 2,500 odds or better. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I'm fading this all day. It's the Open. I mean, like, wave draws are going to come into it. Weird bounces. The last time we had an Open Championship at St. Andrews, we had Mark Leishman in there who went off at like 300 to 1. I can't remember what Zach Johnson's number was, but I guarantee it was bigger than 50 to 1. And even Louis that year when he was in the playoff, like his number wasn't egregious. I believe he was probably around 28 or 30 to 1. So no, I mean, there's some great favorites coming in. Xander's got a ton of momentum. Spieth played well last week, but I'm fading this. It's probably most likely going to come from someone at least in the mid range, like 30 to 1 or bigger.
Colin, you looking outside the top 10 or so as well?
Yeah, I'm for sure. This is the tournament where you want to go down the board more than any other, just because your favorites can hit balls in pot bunkers. Weird stuff happens. You hit the ball off a hotel and all of a sudden you make 7. Like anything can happen here. It's literally possible. So yeah, I'm a stay away here. I want to go down the board again. That 3,000 range is kind of where I want to be. So give me all of that. I think there's plenty of value here. And look, keep your eye on the running totals this week. You can see who's hitting the ball well, who's reacting well to the course conditions, and who isn't. This is probably the best course in the world for in-game betting too.
Reed?
Yeah, you just got to wake up super early and make sure.
Or not sleep.
Or not sleep. That's right, Jeff. From what I heard Colin say, he's betting Tony Finau plus 3,500 to win. That's a great bet, Colin. No, never. I will definitely lose money in Tony Finau until he wins, which will still be a losing bet. Look, I'm going to chase this with, I'm going to do a little bit of Ulrich here. I'm going to chase this with the caveat of I agree with these guys in fading it, because when you have Justin Thomas and Jon Rahm, those are my 2 favorite guys from the top there. I think JT, if you take a look at just the correlations with the Tournament Champions, with Augusta National, with the Farmers, and then all the other trends, right, that we talk about, most of them come from winners or players who have played well in that top 25. 7 of the last 10 have been ranked in the top 25. And the other 3 are like Ernie Els, Shane Lowry, who are like 33rd and 40th, and like Darren Clark, right, at 110th or whatever it was. When you talk about St. Andrews, you talk about the Open Championship in general. So, like, usually the cream rises to the top. And if you take a look at the major tournaments this year, who have won them, right? It's been these top guys. And so, having said that, they're like these guys talked about, there's a ton of value. That's what we get in majors, is the pricing is so laxed, right? So I'm going to chase it just to be devil's advocate with a caveat of I agree with these guys, like 25%.
All right, well, Reed, Colin, you guys can get going. We appreciate your time. Jeff, you stick around, and we've got a lot more, obviously, to talk about with the British Open in the days to come. About 66 hours away from the start of this tournament on the DraftKings website, and we encourage you to get involved because there is a lot going on. Another golf millionaire contest this week. $25 entry, $3 million total prize pool, $1 million to first place, and a spot in the Tournament of Champions semifinal. Grab your spot, do it right now, and then maybe do it again. We'll break down the DFS side of the Open Championship more tomorrow, I promise. But football, yes, NFL, even in July, is on the way next. Welcome back, everyone. This is the NFL Hangover, where we overreact to all things happening in the NFL, yes, even as we rapidly approach August. Let's get to our NFL contributors. Great couple of guys. Jeff Ulrich comes right back. You've heard from him the first 20 or so minutes of the show. And Pierce Dietrich, a couple of DK contributors, guys. We talked last week about Baker Mayfield headed to Carolina. But in April, just a few months back, Robbie Anderson, his new teammate, reacted to an Instagram post about the potential of Mayfield heading to Carolina with the word no, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is over the line of 4.5 O's. That's not great. Anderson clarified last week, though, before the trade, that it was really just a defense of Sam Darnold as his quarterback, his faith in him, blah, blah, blah. On the DK Sportsbook, Mayfield's passing TD line is set at 22.5. So, will Anderson's chemistry with Darnold impact his production with Mayfield? What do you say, Pierce?
I'm not buying it. And the reason I would say that is, what chemistry did Anderson have last year? You look at his first year with Carolina with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, who had an okay 92 QB rating. But Anderson went for over 1,000 yards receiving, almost 100 yards or 100 receptions, had a 70% completion rate. Then you look under the chemistry with Darnold, who had a 72 QB rating. His numbers plummeted. His catch rate dropped below 50%. I think this is probably a good thing for him. He probably doesn't realize it. I mean, he is Robbie Anderson, but eventually he'll figure this one out. And Baker is fine. Let Baker bake. Did he have a great season last year? No, it wasn't a great year, but the numbers weren't terrible. He played in 14 games. In those 14 games, he was sacked 43 times. That was a career high for him. Didn't have any offensive line help whatsoever. Carolina has greatly improved their offensive line. Taylor Morton's there. He's a top tackle in the league. They got a top 10 pick as another tackle out of NC State. They brought in Boozman. They brought in Austin Corbett. The line's going to be better. You have Christian McCaffrey keeping this offense balanced. Baker should easily go over this number. He went over it in his first 3 seasons last year. Just a rough year. It didn't happen. I think a big bounce back year for both these guys.
So just to clarify, not a believer in Russell Wilson, but you are a believer in Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, one guy's like 10 years younger.
I just want to make sure. Jeff?
Yeah, welcome to the crazy house with Pierce's on the NFL, by the way, Kaufman. I know, it's a little jarring. Weird things get said. It's good that you clarified it, because I think the viewers need to know exactly what's going on here. Pierce somehow thinking Baker Mayfield. Anyways, look, that's a whole other segment. Well, Pierce's crazy takes later in the week or something. For now, the question. Robbie, here's what you need to know about Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold. Last year, he had a 48% catch rate with Sam Darnold. A 48% catch rate. This is a player who averaged under 10 yards per reception. So he had the worst yards per reception. He was getting the least depth of target in his career. And he still, his catch rate plummeted to under 50% with Sam Darnold. With Teddy Bridgewater, as Pierce mentioned, he had a 70% catch rate, and he had a higher yards per reception. Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than both of those players. I'm not counting the stars here with Baker. We know he's a little bit limited, but he's certainly better than both those players. Robbie, I don't know what Robbie Anderson was doing. Maybe he was just late one night and he didn't understand. Maybe he thought he heard the name, like, I don't know, like Drew Bledsoe instead of Baker Mayfield was coming or something like that. But Robbie Anderson is going to figure this out really quickly. He's still second on the depth chart. I actually like him for like best ball and stuff. If you're going for like a late round wide receiver target, because I use him in the slot a lot. That's where Baker has kind of made his dough with guys like Jarvis Landry. So I don't know what this no is about on Instagram, but Robbie Anderson's going to figure out real quickly that he's getting an upgrade in Baker Mayfield this year.
Must have been talking to OBJ's dad or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's hit the running backs, Jeff. Now, Josh Jacobs, his 5th-year option, was not picked up by the Raiders back in April. Derek Carr's quarterback said he's very excited about him this year. What's he going to say, obviously? But is he going to be able to parlay this contract year, this situation, as motivation to turn in a great fantasy season? Or is it just, kind of is what it is, and he's going to go out and do whatever he does regardless of the contract?
Yeah, so, Josh Jacobs over the last 2 years has averaged – he's averaged basically 4 yards per carry, actually just under 4 yards per carry. Let's not give him too much credit. Now, this isn't all a Josh Jacobs issue. Part of this is like the Raiders trading away their offensive line, just making it, worse. But this is still a player who, caught 54 balls last year. And I think the big thing with Josh Jacobs is you mentioned 2 things. I'm not big into this like social media narrative, but I am big into the contract narrative. This is a massive year for Josh Jacobs. If he can just rebound a little bit, get that yards per carry average up. He's probably going to be on the field for like maybe 80 targets here. The depth chart behind Josh Jacobs is nothing special. Kenyon Drake is, I know they use him as a passing back. Now he's coming off a major injury and he's really not that good. I think Josh Jacobs has a real chance to excel, especially in the passing game with Josh McDaniel now taking over as coach as well. So it's a good spot for Josh Jacobs. I really do. I'm not expecting a world-beating year for him to end up as like a running back 5, but I think he's a little bit undervalued. This is still a player who's very, very young. He doesn't have that much tread on the tires. And I think you could see his numbers bounce back a little bit with a new offensive-minded head coach. So I'm a buyer on Josh Jacobs. I do think that he's going to put in a solid year, maybe not like a big year, but I think his receptions could potentially hit like career highs again. And I think at the very least, like, you know, if we get some just better run scheming, there's potential for him to have a decent year on the ground too. So good spot for Josh Jacobs, in my opinion. And I think that the Raiders are going to be kind of a faster paced offense too.
Pierce, to Jeff's point, is the addition of Josh McDaniels, despite obviously Devontae Adams and the way they loaded up at receiver, is that going to be a benefit for Jacobs here?
I don't think really any of that matters. What it all really comes down to is just he's a running back, and running backs don't get paid in this league. He can go for 2,000 yards, and it's not going to matter one bit. Look at how the average running back gets paid. The average running back gets about 1.59 a season. A punter gets 1.51 a season. A fullback gets 1.2 million a season. A long snapper, $800,000. They're paid in that same category, whereas a quarterback gets $5 million a season. And it's not like the teams just hate running backs. It's just they get tons of data and research that says, hey, I'm sorry, you don't get paid after your rookie contract. And you go back to 2002 and you look at the data and it's clear. After the first 4 seasons, there is a noticeable fall off in every statistical measurement for running backs. Basically 23 to 26, that's the sweet spot. After that, they're not really worth anything anymore. That's the way they're treated by the owners. That's just the way that it is. Very few get paid later on in their career. So sorry, Josh. You know, he had a good rookie season, and then like Jeff mentioned, 4 yards per carry. That's awesome, but no reason to break the bank over that. Just get yourself a new rookie.
Jeff, Jerry Rice said last week on NFL Network that the 49ers should name a starter heading into the season. None of this battle it out in training camp, all that stuff, or at least, you know, certainly not questions going into week 1. Now, you predicted 14 wins for the Niners with Trey Lance as the QB. Even with Garoppolo's faults, he's brought San Fran to a couple of conference title games, obviously a Super Bowl as well. 14 wins, that would probably give San Francisco the bye, but is Lance capable of doing what Garoppolo did in the regular season, having all of that same success and going to a Super Bowl as a rookie?
I mean, yeah, he is. Of course he is. Like, if you're watching the 49ers the last couple of years and you're putting the success on the back of Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, I'm sorry, you're just not watching the football game. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is out there throwing like 14 times a game in some of these wins. The 49ers, how did they beat the Green Bay Packers? They won through special teams and then just grinding them down on defense and stopping Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams for basically 3 3/4 of the game. It had nothing to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey Lance is a much, much more dynamic player at that position. He's going to give them all kinds of like big playability just with his legs. And I think he'll definitely be better as a passer in his second year in the league. So the thing about the 49ers, it really doesn't come down to quarterback play, which is interesting because, you know, they've got a solid defense. They've shored up some of the secondary with a guy like Charvarius Ward. They're a great rush team. They've got great rushers. It just comes down to they just need the quarterback to be average, and they're going to be a good team. Well, what if Trey Lance is above average? He certainly has that capability. He's a top 10 pick in this league. I think Trey Lance is more than capable of leading him to a massive year, and I think he will. And as far as them needing to name a starting quarterback, I think it's kind of already been done. It just hasn't really been come out and said in the media, which we'll probably get at some point. And I do agree with Jerry Rice at this point. They do need to just name Trey Lance a starter and get this over with, much like the Chiefs did in Patrick Mahomes' second year when they said, okay, we've seen enough from Alex Smith. You're not starting anymore. This is Trey Lance's team. They need to say that eventually.
I feel like I don't even need to look at YouTube, Pierce, to see if anyone say, well, Trey Lance isn't a rookie, Kaufman. He attempted 71 passes last year. First full year starting if it happens. He's a rookie by my definition. What do you think?
He's a rookie by my definition as well. He didn't really get much playing time. What did he learn last year? What did he experience last year? Pretty much nothing. And I'm at
32 games.
I'm a proponent of not, throwing these guys to the wolves, but I'm also not foolish enough to say he's going to win 14 games out the gate in his first real season just because they have a good defense. And you're sitting there saying, hey, he could be an average quarterback. You don't win 14 games with an average quarterback. Yeah, the defense is good, but they're not great by any means. The offensive line lost two big-time players in Laken Tomlinson and Tom Compton. And the receivers, Deebo Samuel, was not happy last time I checked. That's not going away. That problem's not just going to disappear. The history is usually those disputes between a guy who wants to leave the team, it just gets worse, and it disrupts the team even more. Brandon Ayuk, hey, he was okay his rookie season, caught 5 passes for 60 yards per game. That's really not that much. He regressed in his second year, getting just 3.5 catches for less than 50 yards per game. George Kittle, he'll have these massive games, and then he no-shows on the big stage. I don't see how this offense with a average quarterback is going to be able to get it done. And then, by the way, we know that we're going to have just a basic, run-heavy offense. Last time I checked, run-heavy offenses don't work that well in the NFL. Good luck, San Francisco.
Pierce, let's stay with you. Justin Houston, he signed a 1-year deal with the Ravens, going back to Baltimore. How do you see the Ravens defense performing this season? And, the guy's obviously, he's been in the league a decade plus, so I'm not sure how much he really moves the needle anyway. But how do you read this?
Well, Houston still, according to PFF, was one of the top-rated defenders last season, so I think he's going to be fine. Calais Campbell on that offensive lines, our defensive line's going to be big. Really, you just got to throw last season out. They dealt with so many injuries in their secondary. They're just picking guys up off the street. So they have gone from probably the worst secondary in football last season to what PFF says right now is the number 1 secondary. And there's reasons to believe that. They brought in Marcus Williams at safety from New Orleans. They got their top draft pick was another safety. Marlon Humphrey's coming back. Marcus Peters is coming back. They brought in veteran Kyle Fuller. So they have tons of depth in their secondary. Maybe one of their weakest players is Patrick McQueen at linebacker, but he's a 2020 first-round pick, and he still has upside as a pass rusher. And at least as I've mentioned before, this is a passing league, so you want to be good at passing. You also want to be able to defend the pass. And on paper, and this is on paper, it looks hard to find another team that on paper has a better pass defense and pass rush than the Ravens.
Jeff, what do you say?
So the Ravens are, I don't know. I feel like people are buying into this team again. And yes, they were injured last year, and that's a thing. But one of the reasons they were injured is because they're a little bit old in the tooth here. Marcus Williams, I like it. Marlon Humphrey could bounce back. He's still only 26. But Marcus Peters, Kyle Fuller, they're 29 and 30 years old. And you got guys like Calais Campbell and Justin Houston. These guys are not spring chickens either. So it worries me a little bit that this is a bit more of an aging team than I think people realize. And I don't know, rating them as the top secondary. I'm sorry, I can't get that far. I think you're giving Fuller and Marcus Peters just a little bit too much credit. So I like it. On paper, it looks solid, and I do like the moves they made. But I'm still not really buying into the Ravens here. I think that they're going to deal with a lot of the same issues they did last year, which is guys getting a little bit older, getting injured again. And if they do, their depth chart doesn't look that great. So I think that the Ravens could bounce back, but they kind of just need all these injuries and players to kind of just have career years almost in terms of injury avoidance. And then, Pierce mentioned some of the linebacker issues too. It's really not that strong a defense down the middle. So I'm not really that huge on Baltimore. I think that they're probably above average, but this is a team that could also slide into the below average category again if some of these veterans get injured. So I think that the team in the division again to beat is going to be Cincinnati. I think that the Ravens could go through some good stretches, but I think ultimately the season's probably going to catch up to this team. I think they're aging a little bit more than people realize.
I mentioned Devontae Adams earlier, guys. Of course, he's one of the departures from Green Bay this offseason. MVS is another. You would think, just logically, this would open up some targets for another A. Rodgers, the second-year wideout, Amari Rodgers. He said that the coaches can trust him, but is Aaron Rodgers, Jeff, going to trust him? I know Rodgers is all about Rodgers, so why wouldn't he want to throw to Rodgers? But do you like Amari to have a big leap in year 2?
When you look at what the Packers have kind of just grabbed in terms of their going into this season, Christian Watson's a guy a lot of people are going to be talking about, but he's kind of more of a big play receiver, and he definitely doesn't have the high-end college experience. He's probably more of a project than a guy's going to develop in a couple years. Amari Rodgers was starting to get worked into this offense at the end of last season. And you look at his college tape, he's a very versatile player. You know, he played a lot of different positions. I'm not really sure who you'd compare him to in the NFL right now. Maybe a little bit of Deebo Samuel in him. But, yeah, I think Amari Rodgers is actually a very good bet. And I know I brought up, like, the best ball idea earlier in this segment. But, you know, when you're going down in drafts right now, who are you going to gamble on from this offense? You really want to start taking Sammy Watkins in all your drafts? Who's probably honestly, I would not be shocked if Sammy Watkins got cut before the season even started. Amari Rodgers in his second year. The team likes him. He's caught passes from Aaron Rodgers for a full year, and he's very versatile. I think Amari Rodgers is going to be a starting part of this offense, and I think you may see him push for like the team lead in terms of like targets. There's a very good chance that at the very least he's going to be a top 3 in terms of targets on this team. I know Lazard, Randall Cobb going to be part of this, but Amari Rodgers more explosive than both those players. And I think just maybe getting a little bit underrated with some of these names that are being thrown out in all the draft picks. So a guy I would definitely keep my eye on, especially as training camp progresses. I think he's got a very good chance to start at least in the top 3 for Green Bay this year.
Pierce, are you a believer?
Full disclosure, I didn't even know Amari Rodgers was on this team. So just him getting on the field is going to be a big leap.
Great analysis.
He didn't do anything last year. I mean, what tells us that he's going to have an impact if he didn't even sniff the field? And it's not like beyond Devontae Adams, there was just great receivers all over for Green Bay. There was plenty of opportunities and chances for him to step in and get a big role, and he didn't do it. He's 5'9". He's got average speed at best. To compare him to Deebo Samuel is insane. He's nowhere near the speed, the agility, the explosive, anything. I know he does do kick returning and punt returning, but that's just more of a safe hands possession type guy. He's not a terrible player, but I would expect it's going to be quite some time before we really see him start to develop. And then there's also the issue of, if you remember last year, week 1, where Green Bay looked terrible, and the reason they looked terrible was because Aaron Rodgers did not participate in preseason. Is he going to participate this year? I mean, he doesn't need it. He's up there in the age. He doesn't need the reps, but he does need the reps with his wide receivers. He does need to build, a rapport with these guys, but is he going to do it? So how sluggish are they going to come into the season? How much is that going to affect these young receivers? Maybe this team just goes heavy in the run. And if I'm Green Bay and I've got the running backs and I've got the offensive line and Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age and has suffered through several injuries over the last season, I go heavy run and just play good defense.
So, Jeff, for those scoring at home, according to Pierce, Russ can't cook, but Baker can bake. That's a big one. And he can give you the average annual salary for a long snapper and a fullback, but Amari Rodgers is basically a creative player in Madden.
I'm just very excited for the Amari Rodgers breakout and for me to just play this segment on loop 20 times, over the next year. So, anyways, who else are they going to throw to, Pierce? Who else are they going to throw to this year?
I think they're going
Romeo
to run
Doubs,
the ball.
Randall Cobb going to catch 100 passes. They have to throw to someone, buddy. Come on. Give Amari Rodgers a little bit of your love.
All right, we got to go. We're going to pivot to hoops next. Our NBA panel is going to be with us. Guys, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. We'll be right back on The Sweat. NBA season, of course, ended last month with the Warriors winning a championship, but the action doesn't stop in the association. We have Summer League hoops in Las Vegas. Our own Julian Edlow, he's there, but he's probably sleeping. So we are thrilled to have a couple of DraftKings contributors, Jeff Pratt and Chinmay Vaidya. Good to see you guys. Few games in now for many of the top rookies. Chinmay, let's start with you. Who's impressed you the most so far?
obviously the top three players have been pretty solid in Summer League when it comes to Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, and Jabari Smith. But I got to go with Sacramento Kings rookie Keegan Murray. He's really impressed me, especially with his scoring. And that was the one thing that many people thought he was going to be able to do well, and he's proven that. In the California Classic, his efficiency was off the charts, and he's been good so far in Las Vegas as well. So I believe he's at plus 750 to win Rookie of the Year. And if you're not going with one of those top three guys, I think Keegan Murray is a guy to really keep an eye on. He's been great so far.
Jeff, who's jumped out?
I 100% agree with Chinmay. I think that all of the top 5 picks even have been very impressive, although I haven't been particularly impressed by Jabari Smith just because we know he can bring a little bit more to the table than what he's showing right now. But Keegan Murray has to stand out. This is a guy who people immediately pegged as yet another Kings draft bust when they took him over Jaden Ivey, but he's done all he can to quiet the doubters so far. He can really shoot it. His post game is polished. He's showing why he was touted as one of the most league-ready players in this draft class. So Keegan Murray for sure.
Which game are you guys looking forward to watching the most tonight? I mean, the Magic and the Thunder square off, which means, of course, Banchero and Holmgren. That's exciting. I hope OKC, the coaching staff there, Jeff, really gets an opportunity to see this through over the next few years, because that is an exciting young core.
It is very exciting. Obviously, Paolo versus Chet is the headliner tonight. I think clearly the most entertaining game. So I'll move on to a couple down the line that people might want to tune into just for a couple of other prospects. One of them is Mavs Jazz, mostly because of Jaden Hardy. Hardy was a guy who really should have never fallen into the second round of the draft. Obviously a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, went to the G League, fell a little bit, and then he's showing right now why he was touted so highly coming out of high school. He had 28 points in his summer league debut. He's super athletic. He seeks out contact. He's just very entertaining to watch. And then I'm also interested in Rocket Spurs. We're still waiting for that first huge Jabari Smith breakout game, and the Spurs have a couple of exciting prospects themselves. I'm a fan of Josh Primo. So obviously it's going to be Magic Thunder, and I agree completely with what you said, Adam. I really hope that OKC is able to finish this rebuild that Sam Presti has started up top in the front office. But besides that, there's still a couple of entertaining games tonight.
Chinmay, I can't believe we didn't get more from Jeff on the Celtics tonight. Just bias.
What am I supposed to say, Adam? Hey, Sam Hauser. Watch Sam Hauser.
Watching Barry buckets left and right. What do you say, Chinmay?
The Celtics gutted most of their Summer League roster in the Malcolm Brogdon trade. So
True.
I can't fault Jeff for not wanting to tune in to Boston tonight. I do like Houston. I think they're doing something very interesting down there with their players. Not just Jabari Smith. Josh Christopher has been pretty solid. Tari Eason is looking really good. So Houston is doing some interesting things. Obviously, the Thunder, we thought this was going to be a really long rebuild when they started it all with the Paul George trade. It's looking ahead of schedule right now based on the players that they have at Summer League. And then you throw in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort coming into the regular season. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be this amazing team right away, but they are going to be a tough out every single night. And you watch this team grow over the next few years. This team could be ahead of schedule right now. So I like both the Rockets and the Thunder tonight in terms of prospects to watch. Not much else on the slate, especially not for the Celtics.
Yeah, just looking at it, game bets tonight, obviously DraftKings Sportsbook, all these are, for the most part, they're right around the 170s for game totals. The spreads, they're all single digits, no shock there. Chinmay, going right back to you, is there a favorite bet for you tonight?
Not really, just because Summer League is kind of tough to predict. But I do like a couple bets tonight. The Hawks are, I believe, plus money against the spread, and it's plus 5.5 right now or something around that line. Anytime you see something like that in the Summer League where things can go haywire pretty quickly, that's one that I immediately look at and say, oh, maybe I'll throw a little bit of something on that. And then Jeff alluded to Jaden Hardy and the Mavs. I believe they're plus money line against the Jazz, who have not looked all that great through Summer League, both in Salt Lake City and in Las Vegas. So I like those two plays, Hawks against the spread and Mavs money line, both at plus money right now.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to that Magic Thunder game tonight. I'm going to take the OKC money line. Last time I checked, they were at plus money. These are two teams with plenty of summer league experience under their belts already. While the Chet Paolo matchup is extremely enticing, I'm not sure how much of Paolo we're going to see in this game, to be honest. And the same goes for their next best player, RJ Hampton. The Magic are coming off a double OT win over Sacramento. Paolo played 34 minutes. RJ played almost 32. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Orlando just puts Paolo on ice after this game moving forward. We've already seen what he can do. It's time to pull him and get him ready for mini camp. And then on the OKC side, they still have enough talent to win this game regardless. And I expect Chet to see a pretty heavy workload tonight just because he didn't see as many minutes as Paolo in his last game.
Guys, if I remember right, and I could be wrong, it has happened before. The Kings were the Summer League champs this time last year, roughly this time last year, which just goes to show anybody can win a Summer League championship. So it's early, granted, Jeff, but if you're looking at the DK Sportsbook odds, who do you like best? What odds stand out?
Oh, man, I'm not sure. And just, Adam, you gave me opportunity to talk about the Celtics.
There you go.
Summer League championship last year. Peyton Pritchard left to go drop 92 in a Pro-Am league, came back, wasn't the same player for the championship. So Celtics fell short in both finals last year. But this time around, man, it's still a little too early for me to feel comfortable betting on any favorite to win a Summer League championship right now, just because we're seeing so many guys getting pulled, put on ice, especially these top picks who don't have much more to prove. I do think the Knicks stand out to me right now at plus 500. They've dropped over 100 in both of their Summer League games. They beat a talented Warriors team, and they blew out the Bulls yesterday. What's key to this Knicks squad and their Summer League aspirations is they don't have any high picks who need to be put on ice, as I mentioned earlier. They just did sign Jericho Sims, but I think they want to see him play a lot of minutes. As a result, they can roll with this squad that they have right now throughout the rest of the tournament and maybe make some noise. Who knows? It's Summer League.
Chinmay, you have a favorite?
I like the Knicks call mostly because they don't have those top picks that they're going to have to rest. So that's going to be one team to watch. I think the Pistons are another team that they want to see how all these pieces fit together. And if Ivy is good to go and healthy, he had an injury scare in the last game, then they want to see how all these pieces fit. So I think they'll play all their guys. One long shot team that just won the championship, the Golden State Warriors, there's reports that Kuminga, Moody, and Wiseman are all going to play in Tuesday's game. So if they keep rolling with those three guys, then you might as well throw the Warriors. I think they're like plus 6,000, plus 5,000, something in that range. If they keep playing those three guys, you might as well roll with the Warriors as well, because we saw Moody go for, I believe, 35 in the first Summer League game. Kuminga had a great game last night. And Wiseman is only going to get better as he gets more time. So I think the Warriors are a good long shot, but I'd go with the Pistons or the Knicks just because they want to see how these pieces fit.
Plus 6,000 on the Dubs. You are correct, sir. Guys, I was going to ask you about Kevin Durant, but he's still a Brooklyn Net and, might even be when the season rolls around. So we got plenty of time to talk about that. We're going to let you guys go. Thanks for being with us. And the show is not over quite yet. You see, we can't all sweat together in July without talking baseball. We're going to do that. Paul Bruno joins us on the other side. All right, it's time for MLB Batting Practice with our guy Paul Bruno, Pablo from RotoWire. We're going to talk DFS, maybe a little sports book. We'll see what we have time for here, but we got to jump into it, Paul. It's good to have you here with us, obviously. DFS, let's begin with your favorite pitcher tonight. Who is it?
Well, Adam, this is a challenging list of starters today. The studs at the top end, Scherzer and Fried, face off against one another, and Nola has a tough matchup against St. Louis. From there, two of the other solid starters, Lynn and Quantrill, face off against one another as well, and it looks like it's too close to call. So that lets me go a little bit lower on the slate to find Alex Cobb facing the D-backs underwhelming offense. For his part, he's kept the opposition in check over his last 5 starts, allowing only 8 earned runs in 25 1/3 innings pitched while striking out 20 and walking only 7. Those are all pretty good numbers. I expect him to go at least 5 innings and qualify for the high win probability that I see in this matchup. That'll only cost me $7,400.
Can't believe you're not going Brian Bayo at $5K. What about a DFS hitter tonight?
I like Jose Ramirez for $5,200 because he's been on a long roll where he's not been hitting a lot of homers per se, but there's still been plenty of extra base knocks and high average hitting safely in all but 4 games dating back to June the 8th. And in fact, he hasn't been blanked in consecutive starts in that stretch. And I will note that he was shut out yesterday, so expect a big rebound again this evening. I also like Corey Seager for $5,100 as the Rangers shortstop's on fire with 5 multi-hit games in his last 6 starts. He gets a platoon edge against Adrian Martinez tonight, making only his 5th appearance of the season. Look for the veteran to take advantage of the unproven guy on the other side on the mound tonight.
If you're looking at some value, certainly some Padres jump to mind immediately, but who stands out to you overall?
Well, one of the Padres that I'm going to look at is Luke Voigt. Take a power bat for $3,600 tonight in this, what looks like a nice matchup for the Padres, as you suggest. The thin air is going to help his chances to pad the power totals. I also like Mike Yastrzemski for $3,500 against Arizona, where I look for the Giants to run up a big score. I choose both of these power hitters before I look at the list that RotoWire's value chart shows, and they're 1-2. So I like the fact that I've gone in this direction, and I'm backed up by a pretty good program that we have at the home office.
Let's go to the DraftKings Sportsbook. There's run line, there's money line, game total. What's a favorite bet to you?
You touched on it. I like the parlay here with the Padres visit to Colorado, taking the Pods to win with the run total coming in at less than 10.5 to pay off at plus 255. And I mentioned a few of the pitching matchups. One that I'll be watching is the White Sox and Cleveland, looking like one of the better ones on the board, featuring Lance Lynn and Cal Quantrill. So I look for the offenses to be limited to well under the line of 9 runs here, to pay off at plus 100.
Paul, always great to have you with us. Sorry it was a bit abbreviated today. We had lots to cover, but I promise more time for you as the week goes on, as always, my friend. Want to thank everyone that was part of the show, both on the air and, of course, behind the scenes. We got a full day of DraftKings-related programming coming your way across all the pages. That's YouTube, that's Twitch, it's Twitter, wherever you find us. Madden Sims begin at noon Eastern, just a few minutes from now. And, of course, after the 4 o'clock Madden Sim, right around 5:15, you will have the slate this afternoon. Plenty of analysis to get you set for tonight on the Diamond and elsewhere. Thank you for being with us. I'm Adam Kaufman. Again, this show rolls on 11 a.m. Eastern Monday